Welcome everybody to the Chess Lab, welcome to round 6 of the tournament I'm playing. Okay, let's jump straight into the game. So here, before jumping straight into the game, I'm paired against a gentleman rated 1815, so lower rated than me, and on paper I have the edge. However, I looked at his games and he didn't play bad at all. So, definitely being careful here. So, okay, my opponent opens with d4. I reply d5. This is my repertoire, c4, c6. Okay. Knight to f3, knight to f6. So far, so good. And now g3. Okay. So, after g3, I play bishop to f5. This is indeed my repertoire. And my opponent plays queen b3. Queen b3, I reply with queen b6. Now listen, it's very important if you're watching this video without watching my other videos, you may not understand the situation, but this is round 6 of this tournament and is 1 round per day. And basically I'm working. In the morning I wake up at 4 a.m. Then at 5 a.m. my job starts. And it's 8 hours, and then at 1 p.m. I get out of the job, I go home, quick shower, and then if I can sleep a little bit good, otherwise I'm ready to play. The more the games progress, the more the week progresses, the harder it is to do this. And the tiredness really starts to settle in. Now, how do tiredness expresses itself? Well, it expresses itself in many different ways, and it depends who you are as a person. For you, it may be expressed in a way, for me in another. The way it expresses for me, it can be that I want to sleep, that's pretty universal, but it can also be I fall for unbelievably dumb things. That's not me being insane, at least I hope. This is me being tired. For example, in this position, I was sincerely considering only 2 moves, and those moves are queen c7 and queen b6. The problem with queen c7 is that there's just bishop to f4. So queen c7, you should instantly reject it. At my level, you should instantly reject it. But I was genuinely considering queen c7, and I was almost playing it. This is tiredness. It's just, you are tired. And I wasn't feeling tired, that's the thing. You don't feel tired, but you are, because you just play like that. But again, I didn't play that, it's just to make you understand what I mean. So I play queen b6. Now I already managed to equalize, so what black's doing is fine. My opponent went for c5, here I took, and here I decided to play knight to a6, which turns out is the best according to the engine. So I'm not playing some absolute shenanigan crazy. So knight to a6, bishop to g2 was played by my opponent, and here already the engine is recommending h6 with some ideas of perhaps playing in the future g5. The reason why you want to do this is because you want to prevent the move bishop to g5. Sorry, not bishop g5. You want to prevent the move bishop to f4, because it's critical that you retain control over those dark squares here, because there are some maneuvers with the knight that you can do and stuff like this. But okay, here we are outside of theory. I didn't know whether or not to play h6 or not. h6 is really a nice subtlety. I'm looking at with the engine, and it would have been minus 0.1, so black is already trying to maneuver for something. Very, very fascinating stuff. h6 is truly beautiful. But and I can understand h6 only after I've played this game. I couldn't understand h6 before. If I never played today's game and you show me h6 in this position, I'm like, you are crazy. And it will take me forever to understand it. Instead, now I'm looking at the engine saying h6, I understand it immediately. Because in the game, my opponent managed to play bishop f4 and it was a pain in the ass. So I understand immediately. This is why you play games, to get experience and all that. So, okay, bishop to g2 by my opponent. Here I had h6, but Sorry guys, I'm getting confused, of course. So knight to a6. No, okay, I made a mistake. And even making these mistakes in the analysis in the videos, just being tired. So a takes b6. Here I played e6. I didn't play knight a6. Knight a6 would have been more accurate immediately, but I played e6. My opponent played knight c3 correctly, and here again h6, but I played knight a6 now. And here my opponent after the game told me about rook a4, and if I go here there are some crazy tactics, and if I take rook a3, and is truly complicated, because you know, I killed it, I killed the fucking mosquito, bitch, dead. Okay, so he knows these positions from the London, you know, from the black side, but okay, he didn't play rook a4, which, damn, he really knew these positions well. My opponent, we talked a lot after the game. He was a very talkative guy, but it was a pleasure for me to listen. He's a really strong player, despite his rating. You know, it's just that he's a little bit, you know, an older gentleman. And, you know, they just can't stand tactics and being tired. So they are kind of nerfed. But inherently speaking, they are very, very strong. So, yeah. Okay. So, knight a6, now bishop to g2. And here you should go for knight d7, and again h6 and all these things. Because it's important that you start to attack this place. Of course, you don't blunder your knight, but it's just to give you the idea. Now playing knight b4 to threaten the fork does nothing, because they just simply castle, and if I go to c2, they can just move on a4 perhaps this time. Okay, but after bishop to g2, I played bishop to e7. And again, rook a4 is best move, but now is equal anyways. So bishop e7, castle. And now again knight d7, but I decided to castle. And again rook a4 is unbelievable, this rook a4 move. Because rook a4 you are trying to support b4, and I'm just kidding, I have no idea what's going on. But okay, castle, castle, and here bishop to f4. Yeah, my opponent played bishop to f4, and now it's a little bit of a pain. Here again h6, trying to go for g5 is what you should do, but here I play knight b8. It looks funny, and the engine evaluation is like plus 0.7, so this is probably considered an inaccuracy by Delicious evaluation. But it's not crazy. I just want to reroute my knight and then play a6. It's not insane. So knight to b8. My opponent played b4, obviously. And now I decided, because here my original idea was to go a6, and after b5, take, knight c6, but then they also have knight d6. I thought they only have knight c7 and I go rook c8 and I have no problem, but they have knight d6. And this is so annoying. So for example, a6, b4, c takes, knight c6, knight d6. Bishop takes, rook f to c8. And the engine says plus 0.3. Okay, it's not crazy, but like is not a pleasant position. Now looking at this here, okay, I can see that something like knight d8 already, the bishop has to move, but in general I couldn't understand why I would go into a position like this. Because like what am I doing? Like guys, if you look at this position, right? Where is my activity? Where is my activity? Like, tell me a plan that even very creatively, and even, you know, granting you some special powers, give black something here. Where is that plan? It's really very, very difficult for me to come up with something that is like, yeah, here black is doing some progress. And I'm not talking about a defensive plan, like trying to get rid of this bishop. I'm talking about an active plan that can push for something that is not just dead draw. It's very difficult here to come up with something like that. So I didn't like this. And so I'm like, I'm screwed. But then I'm like, wait. perhaps I have knight to e4. And okay, after knight to e4, I'm like, if they play b5, I take. And in the beginning, I thought this was smart, but then I realized I have this. And even calculating those type of lines, and the way I was calculating these type of lines is just sign of tiredness. This morning at work, I had a moment where I was falling asleep standing up. The good thing about my job is that I stand up for 8 hours, which may sound bad, but thankfully I'm young and healthy, and I have no problem standing up for 8 hours, literally zero problems. It's actually better, because sometimes you're a little bit tired, but the fact that you're standing up keeps you awake. So it's actually a great thing. But still, today was the first time ever since I'm here, and I've been working this job for like 4 months now, perhaps even more. It is the first time that I really, really, really wanted to sleep while at work. It never happened before. And of course, it's a sign, when you're doing this job and you're also playing the tournament and you're trying your best, it's really, really difficult. But it's normal, I knew this, and I'm happy that it's happening. This is the grind, I'm living it, and I'm also enjoying it. You think I was complaining? No, I'm enjoying it. It's just, I'm making you aware so that if you're following this analysis, I assume you're interested in this game, you understand it better. Because when we look at games, especially from very strong players, especially from the past, there are other things in chess. It's not just the moves, it's also everything around it, right? One characteristic of the professionals is that they are able to turn off everything else. But of course, that's very difficult for an amateur player like me, if not impossible. So, okay, it's just to give you more context. So I play knight e4, trying to get rid of this knight, because I didn't want this knight to become annoying in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want this knight to magically teleport to d6, or getting there through legal moves, So, okay, knight to e4. And now rook a to c1 by my opponent. It's arguably not the most active, incisive moves, but it's a very complicated position. It's a very complicated position, and I realize that every time I play, every position is a complicated position, so I guess I'm improving at the game, because I'm noticing more nuances. Whereas when I was weaker, I thought that some positions were simple, just because I didn't understand nuances. Now that I do a little bit more, I'm like, oh, this position's complicated. Wait, also this position is complicated, and it turns out every position is complicated. Okay, here I play g5, trying to get rid of this guy. And here my opponent played bishop takes b8. And this is not perhaps a great move. Now, of course, the idea, if I take here, this guy falls, so I take with this rook. It looks a little bit weird, but it's fine. And now it's minus 0.2. So from the opening, I managed to, through some scramblings, I managed to emerge not too badly. Not too badly. Very, very fascinating game. Okay, my opponent played knight takes e4. I played bishop takes e4, not getting too fancy. Also, it's not about getting fancy. If I take like this, after something like this, I can't keep this pawn. Because if I attack this one, they just defend it. Like, okay, let me show it to you. Okay, something like this. I'm looking with the engine here. Let's say here, okay, rook to d8, and here, and how do I keep this pawn? Well, the engine, of course, manages to find something with e5, and that's why here, after this move, better was knight e5, to prevent all sort of things. And what if I play f6? Now there's knight c4, but what if I go here? Now there is e3. But okay, what if I go here trying to push and defend? Now there is f3. What if I take it? Now there is bishop takes f3 and it's +1. Why? What if I play king f7, just a random move? Now b5, okay? So what if I play a6? Now knight a5, going for this pawn. What if I defend it? Knight takes b7. Okay, so as you can see, the engines are just ridiculous. That's why you can't play against an engine, because the engine saw everything I showed you plus 3,000 other lines from here. Like you can't play engines. You can't play engines. But okay. Bishop takes c4, my opponent went my opponent went knight e5, and here now f6 works, but now it's much easier because there's so much more simplifications, and basically here no tactics works. If you go here, I go here, and if you take here, I take here, the knight is trapped. Feel free to stop the video and play the variation on your own. If they go here, my plan was to take and then play f5. Yes, it's correct to go here. If they attack me, I just defend, and I calculated some fancy lines, but nothing works. I'm just gonna go here, and I'm not necessarily winning, even though the engine thinks that I am, but I'm pushing, of course. You can't allow this. So, after knight e5, f6, my opponent just went back to f3. In reality, it's a waste of a tempo. Now I'm minus 0.5, so knight e5 was not good, but you can argue that it provoked f6. Okay. The problem is this file is not open in this variation, so this is not a problem. Because if this file was open, maybe it forces me to play f5, and then the knight gets a square, but I'm never forced to play f5 to blunt this bishop, because the bishop will always only be the only attacker. Okay, knight f3, and here I started to think for a long time, and I decided to take a very arbitrary decision. a6 is better. I decided to take and try to play this endgame, arguing that I have some very slight edge. The engine agrees. Bishop takes f3, and here I should have played f5. Or a6, though. a6 is also a move. Let me see what I played. I played a6, okay. So this is minus 0.3, minus 0.2 according to the engine, but it's a low-dep engine, and endgames are tricky. So if you call Stockfish on depth 80, it may say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And it's already minus 0.1 on depth 26 now, so it's probably 0, 0. But my idea was to somehow create something. Perhaps bring my king here and perhaps do this, or perhaps do something like the bishop to c7 and play for e5 and then take. And if they don't take back, this is a weakness. Well, if they don't take back, I win a pawn. If they take back, I may have the open file. This bishop is arguably inferior to mine because it's biting on all my pawns. I may infiltrate. I may go for king here, let's say, h4, h5, with the rooks double behind it. Of course, all of these things are difficult to engineer. I may try to play against the bishop to try to trap him inside. And if they play this move, well, then I have h4, h5, sorry, h5, h4 with the double rooks behind, trying to open and checkmate them. Listen. There is this idea of the opposite color bishop endgame, but opposite color bishop endgames are actually quite fascinating because you can win them. You can win them, You have to make sure to not simplify the wrong things. You have to make sure to not close the wrong things, but you can easily win an opposite color bishop endgame. Who says you can't? Who says you can't? You absolutely can do this. So, there are all the pawns on the board, dude. And two rooks, anything can be done. Anything can be done. But okay, here bishop h5, for example, is the best move, which is perhaps not super intuitive. But after a6, my opponent played e3. And okay, after e3, I played king g7, which is best. Unbelievable, I'm playing decent chess. So this is one of those other moments where I managed to find a couple of decent moves in a row. So rook g7, bishop h5 is the best move, but my opponent played bishop e2. Okay, and here rook h8 is the best move. Unfortunately, I failed to find it with the idea of h5 and things get... of course, now listen, here is the thing. My opponent has a plan, which is to double the rooks here, let's say here and here, but let's say actually here and here, and then play for b5, because I can never take. And if I take like this, they take with the bishop, and finally they open up the possibility of the pawn break. So I have to prevent b5. Sorry if I didn't mention this because it was obvious to me, I apologize, but the main thing that I have to do in this position is to prevent b5. And then I can focus here. Now, to prevent this idea of doubling the rooks and allowing them to play b5, because this is pinned to the rook, is to just move the rook. So I have to move this rook out of the way, move this rook out of the way, and they're never going to be able to play b5 ever. Ever. But they can still play it and try to infiltrate, but it never works if you play it correctly. The key thing is you have to play correctly. And that's why you have an edge, because they don't have the pawn break. Breaking everywhere here just helps me. And I'm gonna start to push. I have some breaks. I have the f4 break, I have the e5 break, and I have the h5, h4 break. Theoretically speaking, obviously. And I can do it with the bishop on c7. I can do it perhaps even with the bishop on g7. Like, I can do it in many different ways. I can do it with having f5. I can do it without having f5. I can do it with having h5 in h4 or not. I can do it with the king here, with the king here, with the king here. Like, there are many things that I can try in the future. That's why I was positive here. However, guys, very important, I don't have to allow b5. If I allow b5, it's over for me. Not necessarily that I lose, even though it's hard to be possible, but I'll never be able to push for something more than a draw. This is very important, guys. I cannot allow b5 to happen. If I allow b5 to happen, it's to the very least a dead draw, but maybe white pushes. Guys, this is important. And by the way, after e3, my opponent offered the draw, I refuted. I refused. But it's fair. I mean, it's fair to offer the draw there. I think that he did. I told him even after the game. He was a really fine gentleman, you know. He was telling me, you know, that he tried to draw and all these things. And I said, I think that you did the right thing asking the draw. And I did the right thing refuting it, because from our point of view, that's the right thing to do, right? Black is trying to push for what can be only a theoretical edge, but still, and the higher rated player, you're trying to do something. And, you know, he's the lower rated player. The edge is theoretical at best, and so you ask the draw. I think it's all fair. So he offered the draw, I refuted it, and you know, after e3, then I played king g7, which is the best move, funnily enough, and he played bishop e2. Okay, so now what to do? e5 is the best move according to the engine, but okay, I didn't play that. Well, before he showed rook h8, so rook h8 is fine, e5 is fine, but I played another move, which, in my opinion, humanly speaking, is not a big deal, but I don't know what the engine will think. Rook f8, and is also fine. Yeah, it doesn't change the evaluation. The blunder comes in a second. And after rook f8, my opponent played king h1, which is arguably not necessarily the greatest move. Here, e5, and you start to have a minus 0.3, minus 0.4. So as you can see, you know, these positions are not equal. These positions are not equal. It's now minus 0.4, and it was minus 0.1 3-4 moves ago. These positions are not equal. But here I just blundered. Again, remember, I should not allow b5. Imperative. Now, the setup that I wanted to reach is a bishop here or here with a rook here. So I want to play bishop d8, bishop c7, so that I'm looking at e5, and also this thing here. So bishop to c7, rook here, and if they hit me, rook here, and if they go here, here, sacrifice, I have this, and this defense, these attacks, they have to go back. So, you know, I wanted this setup with the two rooks here and the bishop on b8. Or c7, it's fine. But, instead of playing rook here, and if they play bishop here, I can always move the rook, but the bishop here is arguably not great, and that's why the engine recommended rook h8, so that the rook can go here and then the bishop here and do these things. I play bishop to d8 immediately, and now this is +1. I didn't check it with the engine beforehand, but of course this is a blunder. Now, after everything I said, it should be overwhelmingly obvious why this is a blunder, and it was overwhelmingly obvious also for me, and it's funny because, listen, king h1, move 21, yeah, I took 11 minutes for this move, because I started to think about the whole world. And I made a blunder that I used to make when I was like rated 300 rating points lower than this, but again, this is due to tiredness. I know that there's just one thing that I should avoid, which is b5. That's the only thing that I can build anything I want, but upon the fundamentals of not allowing b5. And I allowed it. Sorry, I wanted to give you as a puzzle, but of course I misplayed it. This allows b5, guys. It's just, now it's over. Not that I lose, even though I think that this is perhaps even on the verge of losing, but it's ridiculous. And this is due to tiredness. Like, this is no calculation. This is just. And it's funny because as soon as I played bishop d8, like, I was pressing the clock, and I'm like, he can play b5. And it's just tiredness. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So b5. Now if I take with the a pawn, I lose the game. That's why b5 is allowed. So I play c takes b5, but now there is bishop takes b5. And the problem is that, now if I take, of course, I lose the rook. The problem is c6 is also coming. Now, my opponent played very well, by the way, you know. I'm not trying to, like, underplay what my opponent did. It's just that I have to be objective. I know that b5 shouldn't be allowed, and I allowed it. Like, it's ridiculous by my part. And if I didn't allow that, again, we are in a minus 0.3, minus 0.4 position. And even if I didn't find the perfect e5 break, but I started to do my setup, it's still minus 0.1, minus 0.2, you know. And even if it's 0-0, if there's somebody that can push his black, because, again, white doesn't have pawn breaks, black has, like, 3 pawn breaks. e5, f4 after f5, of course, and h5, h4. So if there's somebody that pushes his black, and also my opponent started to be low on time, and with all due respect, he's an older gentleman, he gets tired. I already won completely drawn endgames against people that, you know, gets tired after sometimes. It's normal. The problem is, this works if you're well rested. If you are the one tired in the first place, it's not going to work. It may backfire, as you are about to see here, as you are seeing. But it's fine, this is chess, you know, and hopefully you're learning a lot from this, also about psychology and the way that over-the-board chess is being played, because you may have never played an over-the-board chess tournament. I recommend you do. If you love chess, you're going to love chess even more, or you may hate chess, perhaps. You have to have a positive mindset to play an over-the-board chess tournament and enjoying it. You have to accept that defeat is part of the process, and even losing a game that was drawn for 5 hours. It's very tough because, you know, when you play over the board chess, I'm lucky because this is in my city where I live, so I go there with the car, yes, because I'm lazy, but I could go there with the bike, even by walking if I really, really wanted to. It's like 1 kilometer away, 0.7 whatever miles away. It's like the playing hall from my house. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm sitting here and the playing hall is not even 1 mile away, literally. Like, it's crazy. And it's an international 9-round tournament. I'm so lucky. But what I'm saying is, usually this is not the case, even for me. It's just one tournament here that I'm lucky to have. But usually you may have to take the car, you may have to book an hotel. Like, you make many sacrifices to play an over-the-board tournament. You play a game of 5 hours, it's a draw, and then on move 83 you make a blunder and you lose. Like, you have to be able to manage that mentally. If you're not able to manage that, it's fine, because it's quite inhuman to do, but you need to understand you're never going to enjoy truly over-the-board chess. And this is something that I struggle to do myself and every chess player, but it's also part of the journey to work on that. But I don't know why I went on this rant. It's ridiculous, but not really, I don't know. I'm tired. So move 23, like, because, you know, people say, oh, I recommend doing this, doing that. I would say consider it, but also understand there are some drawbacks, you know, it's tough, but it's definitely an experience. If you're able to endure it, let's say, you should really try to endure it, because it's very nice. Because when you lose, it's devastating, but when you win, it's a real big satisfaction, you know, like real satisfaction. Bishop c7, like I see, sorry, but now I'm saying this, I have many friends, and 99.9% of my friends, they don't play chess. They know how to play chess, but they are not into chess. And you see that they don't understand what it means to have something that gives you that level of satisfaction. Because, like, I don't know how to explain it better than this. Like, you can tell that they don't have that strong of a passion for something like you do have for chess. And if you're a chess player, maybe you experience that as well. But you can tell they don't have it in anything. You can tell the difference. But okay, anyways. So, bishop c7. Also, life decisions is a big thing. And here my opponent played fantastically. He managed to find c6. Absolutely fantastic. Props to the guy. I saw c6 briefly, but I thought that's impossible. But he managed to you know, take his time and calculate it correctly. So props to him. If he didn't play c6, maybe the game is kind of playable. Like, for example, bishop d7. This is what I thought is the main thing. But after king f7, he still plays 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 even perhaps. But is not so clear-cut, for example, c6, but now b5 or b6, and yes, the engine still thinks it's 0.6, 0.7, but It's actually very difficult because this may look scary, but at the same time, now all of a sudden the whole play about the opposite color bishop is kind of true, because how the heck are you removing this guy from c7? Like you geometrically, mathematically cannot do it. Meanwhile, I have my 2 against 1. And my king's gonna go here, this rook's gonna go here, I'm gonna start to march these guys. Listen. I don't want to do some Donald Trump impressions, but no, I can't do that. But, is, I mean, a king here, 2 rooks here with my 2 against 1 is a draw forever, because it's a draw forever, and it's not a draw, white is slightly better, but humanly speaking, you look at this and you're like, okay, I'll take black. And this proves that I don't understand chess, but it's okay. So, c6, very nice move. The point is, if you take, okay, let's do some visualization exercise. What happens if black takes? Feel free to stop the video, take your time. Actually, don't stop the video. I'm going to take some water because I have to drink tremendously. My opponent has just offered a bishop. Tell me what happened. And it's not so obvious. It's not so obvious, guys. Be careful, because there is a move that you may think is the move, but is not the move. Unless you think about the right move immediately, in that case you're confused. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I had to take some water because it's unbelievable. I'm so thirsty, it's crazy, because I've eaten very salty things, Okay, drank too much too fast. Now, if you take this guy, of course, the move is rook takes a8. And this is winning for white. My first thought was my opponent was playing c takes b7. That's why I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. This loses for black, and it's not immediately obvious because this guy's under attack, this guy's under attack. But here you have the intermediate move, rook takes a1. And here this with check is not legal because this is skewered. And if they promote, you just take back. No, actually, sorry, if they promote, you first take here with check, and then you take back, and you're up 2 rooks and a bishop and a pawn. It's just completely winning. And after rook takes a1, you just have rook b8. And it's just over. This, you just have this, and this. Well, you can do anything, really, but also this perhaps is enough. Rook a8, you take the pawn. Rook a6, attacking the bishop, you take the pawn. You're up a piece. And then you're gonna do this, or whatever, even just this, and then this, and you are up a piece. You'll figure it out. It's -5, -4.5, or whatever. But the point is, of course, after you take the bishop, there is first rook takes a8, and after rook takes a8, now c takes b7. And now it's over. Because now these 2 guys are both hit, but you don't have rook takes a1, because the rook got exchanged. That's why you have to first exchange. If you figure it out, good. So rook b8, now rook takes c7 with check. The king moves, let's say, to g6. And for a second, I also even consider this variation seriously, because you never know. But it's just over here. It's just over because it's over. It's over, guys, unfortunately. And the king is gonna join, The king is gonna join. Why not? The king is gonna join. What am I gonna do? Believe it or not, what am I gonna do? So, this is not playable. But then what do? Well, the engine is recommending this, giving up a pawn, leaving this guy on c6, which now is a little bit more complicated than before, and play king f7 and try to do something, but king g2, f5, I don't know, just looking at the moves, bishop e2 for some reason, king e7, b4, h6, and the game continues. This is +1 because, again, the fact that there are opposite color bishop in this situation matters, but I didn't play b6, I just took here. And the reason why this is better for white is that here white simply plays bishop takes a6, and this guy is undefendable. And it's just plus 1.3, plus 1.2, because white is going to be up a pawn, clean pawn. However, my opponent didn't play this. My opponent played bishop takes c6. And bishop takes c6 looks like he's crashing, because the rook's under attack, and the next move is going to be bishop d7, which attacks the bishop and also attacks the pawn. And everything collapses. But I thought from the distance, from here, I'm like, I'm screwed. But then I started to realize that after this sequence, I have a move that saves me. And so when I saw bishop takes c6, I was so relieved. Dude, I was so relieved, you don't understand. And after the game, I told my opponent, in this position here, I think that if you take on a6, you have an advantage. You may not be winning, but definitely you are pushing. And the engine exactly tells this. So, this is one of those situations that, yeah, okay, you evaluate the position correctly, but you are worst. So congratulations for doing that. Yeah, but yeah, listen, I'm happy. Okay, so but bishop takes a6 wasn't played, bishop takes c6 was played, and now I have one move that saves me. Feel free to stop the video, try to find it. I don't know how I found it, because how did I find it? Well, you have to think about the threats very autistically almost, without offense to nobody, of course, but here, I should say that to myself more perhaps. But here's the thing, what's the threat again in this position if it's white to move again? Yeah, there is a rook hanging, but let's assume there's no rook hanging. The threat is bishop d7. This guy is hit, and this guy is hit. It's as simple as that, and everything collapses and I lose. So you have to defend the bishop, but also saving the rook. And you may say, you go here. Well, if you go here, you lose the game, because this is even worse. So you go to a7, rook a7. Rook a7, and I play rook a7, and now it's plus 0.1 according to the engine, but unless I play other catastrophic moves, I'm like, I saved it. And here I have to recognize it into myself. I just made the best of the position, Of course, granted that my opponent made this mistake, which I will call a blunder, I will call bishop takes c6 actually a blunder, sorry. But bishop takes c6, in my opinion, is a blunder, because it goes from you push for a win to dead equal. Well, not dead equal, but in my opinion, yes. So, okay. And here I saw the best line according to the engine, bishop b5, attacking this guy. It's pinned, so bishop b5. Here you play a5, now b4, again this is pinned, but now you have rook b8, and things gets crazy. And bishop d7 attacking here, but now e5, things gets like ridiculous. B takes a5, e takes d4, e takes d4, rook takes a5. Now if you take here, you lose this with check, so rook takes a5, bishop takes a5, rook c5 in the end. Nobody saw that ever. Rook to d8, ridiculous move. If you take here, I take here, defending everything. Rook takes d5 though, and now bishop to c3, and now there are so many problems. This is pinned, and if you unpin it, let's say this, well then I take, and this is a dead equal draw endgame forever. But okay, nobody saw any of that. Well, actually, I saw up until here and I was satisfied. For some reason I stopped there. But my opponent, after bishop takes c6, rook a7, didn't play any of that. He played bishop to a4. And now this is just dead equal, bishop a4. So bishop a4, here I played rook b8. Rook b8. My opponent played rook c2, which is also perhaps not super. I don't know what I'm trying to say. So rook to c2, rook to b6 now. Rook a to c1. And here, okay, here I thought this was dead equal. I played bishop d6, which to be fair is the best move in the position. And here I said, I offered the draw here. Did I offer it here? No, I didn't offer it here. Sorry. 28, bishop d6. Yeah, bishop d6. My opponent here played b3. Yes. And here I played rook b to b7 and I offered the draw here. I genuinely thought that this was dead equal. The engine is saying plus 0.1. I don't know. I really thought this was dead equal. The reason, and you may say, if you think this is that equal, why do you ask the draw? Because I'm tired. And the fact that I'm tired has been proven to me by previous moves. So I just want this game to be over. I already risked to lose and I was aware of it. My opponent missed it, but I knew it. So I'm like, I don't want to put myself... So I'm playing bad, obviously. I don't want to keep doing this. So let's just offer the draw. And hopefully he accepts. He He thought about it for a while. He also already asked the draw. He's lower rated. Also, he has the problem that he's tired. So he has all the incentives in him as well to accept the draw. And he accepted the draw. If plus 0.1 on depth 32. If we keep going, perhaps it's 0-0. The point is, if you play rook c6, which looks like destruction, there is rook c7. That's the point. And this is 0-0-0 on the dot. And here, if you take here, you lose this rook. That's the point. And after take, I take control of the open 5, so they have to take. And now this is 0-0. Because yes, this is finally one of those very famous opposite color bishop endgame. Because now there are no enough material to do anything. And also the geometry doesn't allow for anything. But yeah, what else? The engine is saying rook c8 is the only thing that the engine is saying, but now rook c7 anyways. And after rook takes c7, I don't know what the problem is. Rook a8 it seems. Okay, rook a8, yeah. So perhaps there was something. However, we must say that here the best move is this. And here the best move according to the engine is g4. Something tells me that perhaps g4 wasn't what my opponent would have ever played in a trillion years. I don't know, something tells me. But maybe would have found it. I don't know, but if you go here, for example, already bishop takes g3, this is minus 0.1. So as you can see, it's anybody's game, really, it's anybody's game. But the critical rook c6, of course, is 0-0. Okay, I really thought this was 0-0-0-0-0. Rook c8 is plus 0.2, apparently. 0.1. Okay. It is what it is. But yeah, this was a draw. I'm happy of the result after everything because, again, to play bishop d8 here is just ridiculous, of course. And I evaluated correctly. This is minus 0 point something. Humanly speaking, you can do something here. It's not just engine-wise. You can do something. I sensed that if there was somebody that had some potential, it was black. This was correct. But, yeah. I kind of... The beginning of the end was probably not playing rook h8, but playing rook f8. Because you need this... But you also need this rook outside of the square d8. So you either need the rook here, or here, or here, or here. Well, but you need one square for the other rook. So this rook can only go here, here, or here. Because if it goes here, well, the other rook can't disappear. So you have three possibilities for this rook. And you need to understand that if you go here, you can get hit. So you have to go here with this rook. Right? You can also go here, but I don't see the reason. Also, you are on a light square, so you want to stay on the dark squares. And so rook f8 is inferior, because if anything, rook g8, if anything, but rook h8 makes so much more sense. It also, with the flexible idea of pushing, so actually rook h8 is findable. Rook h8, bishop h5, rook a to f8, let's say, this is minus 0.1 again, king g2, and now bishop d8. Oh, but now b5 works anyways. b5 works anyways. And it's plus 2. A takes b5 and now rook a7. You can't defend this. So b5 works anyways. And that's why bishop h5 is so important. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy. Okay. Very, very, very instructive, by the way. This endgame is so instructive, but I can't do this. Can't do this. I have such beautiful hair, by the way. Sorry, guys. But here's the thing. I can't do this, okay? Tomorrow I wake up at 4 to work. Tomorrow I wake up at 4 to work. Dude, is half past 8 p.m. I'm gonna sleep 6 hours again. Let's go. And the average of the week is terrible. So yeah, it's crazy. But again, I'm tired, so I speak the way I speak. But I'm extremely happy. That's the grind, That's the grind. Bishop a6. Let me delete this. Bishop takes here. Bishop here. Oh, I don't know. Here. Yeah. So that's the game. Let me do the analysis by the computer. Let's see what the engine says. You can tell there is some tiredness, more than just a little bit. Is the analysis over? Yes, the analysis is over, but of course I have to refresh the page because it doesn't update the visuals. Yeah. I mean, we didn't play bad, 92% accuracy, 93% accuracy. But I played well. I played bad. My opponent played better, in my opinion, than me, considering everything. Knight b8. b4, 94, but C is difficult, so it's kind of okay. If you keep things difficult, I learned it's kind of okay. This is wrong, and from here I was doing all the right things. I was really in that mood of like, I'm gonna outplay him, I'm gonna outplay him. Here it must be said with a6, I'm like minus 0.8, so it's good. But okay, I decided to go into this endgame, bold choice. And this is minus 0.4, but I have to play 5 and minus 0.1, minus 0.2 if I go with my maneuver and I'm pushing for something. But this is pure tiredness. Just allowing b5 is crazy. Allowing c6, I don't even condemn too much myself about it because it's fine. But allowing b5 is crazy. And then I managed to save myself. I had to play those precise moves on the queen side. It's not so obvious to play those precise moves on the queen side, but I managed to do it. Here I decided to okay, I'm gonna ask the draw. Hopefully he accepts, and I'm out of this place. He did, and we have a nice talk afterwards with a great guy. Yeah. Okay, so that's the game. A draw, and no, but I'm happy because the first. What was it? The first 3 games of the tournament or 4 games showed me that I've made progress, and now all the games is just me being a tired zombie, basically trying to survive. Today I survived. Now let me go actually on the profile. I'm gonna go on the profile and I'm gonna see my. Oh, there are the pairings already? Wow, okay. So 7 out of 9, I'm gonna see who I'm against tomorrow. Yeah, you can't even see my name, it's fine. I'm 3 points. This is me, I'm gonna be against an 1800 tomorrow, okay? And I am, listen, this is a miracle. I am gaining, I don't know if you can see here, but... I don't know if you can see, how can I do this? I can't do this. I can do it like this. Yeah, I can do it like this. Hopefully, if I can do this. Yes. Yeah, so this is my performance. Can you see it, guys? I think you can see it. Yay, let's go. So as you can see, these are my opponents, a couple of FIDE masters, as I said. This is my performance so far on 6 rounds. The 7th round is going to be played tomorrow. Against a 1799, basically 1800, and I'm gaining 1.6 elo, as you can see. So I'm not even losing points. I thought I was at 0 or minus 0 point something. I'm at 1.6. I'm laughing because this is ridiculous, but it's so funny. So I'm not even losing points. I'll be very soon, don't worry about it. I'm working on it, but Yeah, so tough, but also really, really great. Let me go back on this business here. Okay, so what to say? Tomorrow is gonna be around 7, and it's gonna be on Friday. Then on Saturday I'm gonna sleep. On Friday night I'm gonna sleep for like 12 hours. So on Saturday I should play perhaps a decent game. But tomorrow against the 1800 is gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal because I'm gonna be the peak tiredness. Tomorrow I'm gonna be peak tiredness against the 1800, and if I lose 15 points. Oh man, oh man. Well, stay tuned for tomorrow's analysis. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Enjoy your chess.